The next point is total acceptance of it as it is. An absence of judgment. If you love a thing, you accept it as it is. You don't need it to be different. You don't need it to change. Because if you need it to change, what you're really loving is not the thing itself. You're loving some other fantasy that you've created about some other thing, which isn't really the thing that you're trying to love. You see this? If you really love your child, you accept it as it is, not as how you want it to be, not judging it. And this is what makes love so difficult, is because we usually need it to be some other way for us, not as it really is. Therefore, we don't really see it as it is. Our need for a thing to fit our own agenda and survival needs is so great that oftentimes we don't even see what's in front of us. We see what we want to see. We see what we want it to be, not what it really is. A lot of their parents, if they're bad parents, they don't even see their children as they are. They only see them as the fantasies and ideals that they've imagined in their minds of what a good child should be. And that's what makes being a good parent so difficult, is that you need to surrender those fantasies in order to make a connection with the actual child. You see, because otherwise, we're talking about this theme of love is making connection, right? You're forming a deep connection. Well, how can you form a connection to some object when its reality isn't sufficient for you? Therefore, you construct a fantasy of some alternative version of that object, and what you're really connecting with is that object. What you're loving is not this thing, you're loving that thing, which you're then pretending is the real thing. You're falling in love with a fantasy, you see. And this leads to the point of valuing the thing or the person for its own sake. Not for what you need, for its own sake. Which leads to the next point, which is appreciation. If you love a thing or a person, you appreciate them as they are. That's what it really means to love something, is to appreciate its consciousness. Like, if you say you love pepperoni pizza, what that means is you actually appreciate it, how it tastes. That's what you're appreciating. That's why you love it. If you love psychedelics, why do you love them? It's because you're appreciating them when you're experiencing them. Likewise, if you love your cat or your dog, that's why you love them. That's a chunk of consciousness that you appreciate. You appreciate its existence for its own sake. Otherwise, you don't really love it. And the next point, which takes this appreciation even deeper, is that when you really love a thing and you form a deep connection with it, you are conscious, you're seeing its intrinsic beauty. Now, this brings us to a deeper topic of beauty, which really is an existential topic that could have its own episode. What is beauty? In a nutshell, basically, beauty is infinite. All of consciousness is beautiful. But you have to be aware of that. And most people aren't aware of that because we're biased and selfish and needy. But in your own life, you can find things that are beautiful. That's a bias of yours because everything is equally beautiful, but you find one specific thing, you can see its beauty, you can see the intrinsic beauty of a thing, whether you're looking at a piece of art or a man or a woman or whatever, a child, you can see its beauty. And the more conscious you are and the more you focus on it and really look at it, you can see more and more. There's infinite beauty in every object, basically. But you have to connect with it to really, to get to suck the beauty out of it and to appreciate that. And so the more you love an object, the more you're willing to do that. See, most people can't see the infinite beauty in a piece of dog turd on the sidewalk, but they can see the beauty of a great painting by Van Gogh or something like that. Now, there's equal beauty in both, but some things for us humans, because we're so finite and selfish and biased, some things for us it's easier to see the beauty of. But also, you can go to a museum, like one person can go to a museum, walk by a Van Gogh painting, and just kind of like walk through it, walk through the room, look at it, kind of go, oh, that's kind of interesting, and then just keep walking, right? But like it's so shallow. Such a shallow connection was formed there between that person, his consciousness, and the Van Gogh painting. But someone who's like an art connoisseur and really a lover of Van Gogh, he'll travel around the country, halfway around the country, just to see that painting, and he'll spend the next hour just looking at it, like really close. Get up close to that Van Gogh, just like look at it, and really appreciate every brush stroke and see the genius of it and the use of color and this and that, and like maybe it can even bring you to tears if you're really into that sort of thing. Now, you can extend this example to basically anything. You can do this with human beings. You can take one human being and you can just treat this human being very casually and flippantly, transactionally. Then you don't really love that human being. You don't have a deep connection with it. But like, if you really love someone, you can look at their face for hours. You can see the beauty in every freckle on their face. That would be forming a much deeper connection.